Okay, so during class, we will do a little bit of Halloween themed vocabulary, right? If there's anything in particular you all want to know, you could ask, right? So if we were saying Happy Halloween in Spanish, because Halloween is its own thing, it would be Feliz Halloween, or probably Halloween. The H would be silent, so it would be Ween, right? And the double L would be a Y sound. Pronunciation will be different, but the word is the same, right? How do you say pumpkin in Spanish? If you were watching the video just now, you would have seen. If you were watching the little Halloween story. Calabasa, very good, yes. All right, so la calabasa. How do you say witch? Because this pumpkin is just like a witch. Okay, let's go with the witch. And I'll change this una to la bruja. All right, what about my the bat? So bat is a interesting word. I'm wondering how they say Batman in Spanish. El murciélago. Right? All right, so 3 words so far. And nighttime, it's nighttime, so it's night, it's la noche. All right. And we have a moon here, la luna. Right? All right, one. Are some of you able to see the words? One person can't see the words. Let me do the share again. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. You should be able to see it now. Hey, and only one person tell me, you were just going to let me ask you to write it down and all right, so you should be able to see it now, right? So I have the pumpkin and I want to say 2 pumpkins. What would I add to calabasa to make it plural? I would simply add S, right? I would say las calabasas. And the same for la noche. If I wanted to say nights, I would say las noches. If I wanted to say the witches, I would say las brujas. For murciélago, los murciélagos. And then the accent would disappear actually, right? La luna would become las lunas. Right? All right, so all of these nouns, the Spanish nouns on the screen end in vowels. So when we make a noun that ends in a vowel plural, we add an S. Right, now I expect that everybody knows that rule. Maybe one or two people are meeting it for the first time, but the majority of the class knows that rule. That one is easy. And the one where we add ES, that is also easy. The other rules might be a little more unfamiliar. All right, I can change. If anybody's still writing, I can give you 10 more seconds, and then I change in this side, right? 10 seconds. All right, let's continue. Okay, we have some things in the class. We have lots of things in this classroom. We're going to try to name as many of these things as we can. So if you see something and you know how to say it in Spanish, tell me in the chat. Right? I'm going to list out things in English. So we have a clock. And then I'm going to come back and we'll write them in Spanish. But whatever you know how to say, tell me. We have a window. We have a desk. We have a chair. Door. Wall. Map. Calendar. Light. Whiteboard. Dustbin. Umbrella. Books. Computer. Backpack. Notebook. Lunch bag. This person has their priorities, they bring lunch bag, no backpack, just lunch bag. All right, so we'll start with these. These are the main things, and then we could come back to the other items. All right, great. So let's see. The window is la ventana. Right? The door is la puerta. Good. All right. Okay, great. The light is la luz. The bin is basura. If you know a different word from the one that I write, you can tell me. Book is libro, right? These books are libros. Let me make it singular. All right. Now, notebook is Let's change the color. Cuaderno. Right? All right, let me see what else you all are telling me. Yes, that's correct, Soraya. So we have, well, 2 words for umbrella. Paraguas for umbrella, for literally for water, right? For paraguas, right? And then there's sombria for, you see, the issue is we don't really have sombrias. We just have umbrellas that we use as sombrias. This is really a parasol, which is like a special umbrella. It's not waterproof. It might be made of cloth. And it's used to shade people from the sun. Right? But I mean, in the Caribbean, we typically just use the umbrella to do that. Okay, please remember that Miss was born in the 1980s, so I do not understand young people slang. So you will have to translate, right? All right, whiteboard. Okay, so the word for board is la pizarra, right? Now it's a whiteboard, so we're gonna go with blanca. But if it were a blackboard, it would be la pizarra negra, right? Okay. Now the small things like the scissors and the markers, I'm gonna leave for the next slide because I have small items on that slide. Okay, computer, computadora, right? Computadora. La computadora. All right. The calendar. El calendario. Clock. El reloj. RELOJ. What about the wall? La pared, right? Okay, anything that I didn't label? Oh, the map. Okay, so the map is el mapa. Even though it ends in an A, it is masculine, right? Right. I have lunch bag down here and backpack down here. I bet you all know backpack is la mochila, right? Lunch bag, la bolsa de almuerzo. Anybody know a more idiomatic way to say it? We did chair, we didn't do chair. Desk is escritorio. And chair is, so this is el escritorio, I don't know, la silla, right? Um, okay, it's el paraguas, but la sombría, right? Okay, anything anybody cannot make out, you can tell me. We did TV the other day, television, el televisor for the TV set. When we were doing the living room, we did that, right? There's no shelf, but shelf is a useful word and one that we always forget. So I'm going to put shelf here. Shelf, el estante, right? Right. Anything you want to ask, you could ask. Take 2 minutes. We have small things on the next page, like eraser and sharpener and all those things. Pencil and pen and whatnot. All right, ready to go from here? Last 10 seconds, right? Okay. Other things in the classroom. Well, we already did notebook. How do we say eraser? So notebook was el cuaderno. How do we say the eraser? La goma. Right? Pencil. Pencil is a pretty popular one. How we say pencil in Spanish? El lápiz. Right? But we would say los lápices. Lápices. Right? So notice the accent goes away, right? In the plural. We'll talk about why that is in a little bit. Okay, so book we already did. We said that was libro. Shop, no. School bag we said was mochila. Right. Sharpener, or do we not use those anymore? El sacapuntas. All right, ruler. La regla. What about pen? La pluma. Right? There's also el bolígrafo, but that's really for like a fountain pen, right? Pencil case. El estuche de lápices. The glue, pegamento. All right, what about scissors? Las tijeras. Is there any other thing that is not here that you all think you would like to know? Palette would be la paleta. La brocha for paintbrush. Right, we already did el mapa. Crayon, lápiz de color. Geometry sets. Okay, that one I have to think about. If I had to translate geometry set, I would say it's not just rulers. I might say the geometry tools, like las herramientas de geometría, de matemáticas. I don't know offhand what it is, so I would have to look it up, right? I don't think it would be a literal translation. So I would have to look it up. All right, anything else that we didn't do that you'll want to know that's in your classroom? Would color pencils be the same as crayons? Yes. One second. But this in the recording is useful for us to know, right? So first and second this year, that is Saturday and Sunday, right? All right, so they will build an altar, which is called an ofrenda. They will put a photo, they will put a candle, they will put food for their loved ones. Right, yeah, like All Saints for Catholics. Right. When because Saturday and Sunday, Catholics, if I'm not mistaken, but other Christian religions too, right? Will visit graves of loved ones. They might clean up the grave, they might put flowers, they might put, I don't know if they put candles, right? Sugar skulls, marigolds, that type of flower. The Katrina symbolize the joy of remembering the dead. So there's a special type of bread that is made, right? You can see a picture of it in the on the bottom. Anybody came across it before? What's it called? Oh, okay, I call it salt bread, but it's not salt bread, my bad. It's a sweet bread. Not like sweet bread like we eat, but a bread made um with um sugar, right? So pan dulce, right? And it might be flavored with oranges, orange zest and so, right? On the altar, on the ofrenda, there might be salt. Salt might be one of the things that's offered. Right? And whatever else the person who died like to eat and drink, they might also put that there too, right? Yes, okay, bread of the dead, pan de muertos. And make sure at least that you note like Dia de los Muertos and that it's in Mexico, right? Um, Here they talk about the Katrina, right? So this is short for the Cavalera Katrina, right? Or La Katrina, right? So it's the skeletal face, right? That's of a person. Well, I mean, it started off as a person, like a figure, and now it's just taken on its own. No, it's its own thing. We don't need the body attached. We just need the symbol of the face. I don't think this is thought of as a sad celebration. Well, I mean, if we're sad about a loved one passing, then yes, it will be sad. But I don't think it's thought of as a time of sadness. Well, but we're supposed to be happy in our memory of the people that we had in our lives. All right. Last 10 seconds. Okay, it is 5:20 already. I don't understand where time goes. Now, this slide is fairly straightforward and simple, and will just be a reminder of what you've done before. If it loads, right, great, right? It's the next slide that will take a little time. So I'm going to move through fast. If you don't have time to plan to take a screenshot or plan to come back to the recording, I've also posted the PowerPoint, so plan to come back to it to finish the note for your homework, right? All right. So making non-plurals. The plural in Spanish, to know how we're going to form the plural, we look at the last letter of the word, right? The last letter of the word. If it ends in a vowel, A, E, I, or U, then all we add is an S, right? So you have examples here. El libro becomes libros, but we have to remember to also change the article if we're using it, right? Casa becomes casas, so we add an S and we change the article. Chico becomes chicos with an S. right? Now, if the noun ends in a consonant except for Z, Z is special. Why is Z special? If it ends in a consonant other than Z, we have to add ES. So in English, if the noun ends in what? If it ends in like CH or SS or X or O, we add, and a couple other things I forget right now, we add ES, right? So in Spanish, if it ends in a consonant, but not Z, so like we have el color becomes los colores. Right? So the color becomes colors. Woman becomes woman. Animal becomes animals. Right? So, and these ending are consonants that are not Z. So we add ES. To the R, we add ES. To the L, we add ES. Okay, 1 minute, 60 seconds, literally. I'm putting on a timer. And then we're going straight to the next piece of it. What happens if it ends in a Z? What do we have to do? You saw it just now with lapis and lapises. Okay, 15 more seconds for you to finish writing or take a screenshot. Okay. Let me change the slide, right? Oh my God, I left it out. All right, let's go back to this. Let's go back to the to this one. I'll put it in here. Right, if it ends in Z, we change the Z to C and add ES, right? So I'll draw a little arrow in blue, right? If it ends in Z, change Z to C and add ES, right? So right now, all I can think of is lapis. And that becomes lapises, right? So we change the Z to C, LAPICES. Did we identify everything on this slide? What's the word for candle in Spanish? All right, we're gonna talk about so candle is vela, right? That's the only thing on that previous slide I think we didn't do yet. So up here I'm gonna put it. La vela, the candle, right? Okay, don't write anything here yet on this here. All right, now there's a thing that happens in with Spanish nouns and plurals that involves the accent, right? Still, you're still not writing anything, just follow along with the discussion. Some words have an accent when they are singular, like these examples here, el camión, el francés, la canción, la lección. But when you make them plural, what happens to the accent? It evaporates, right? And then some words do not have an accent when they're singular, but when you make them plural, you add one. Right? So that's what we want to understand. And what will help us understand it is if we remember the rules of pronunciation for Spanish. Okay? So let's look at those rules. In Spanish, the only time you have an accent is if the word has a stress that goes against the normal way of pronouncing things. Right? All languages, their words have a normal way of pronouncing the words. So think of the word in English, tomato. We don't pronounce it tomato. We don't say tomato, right? We say tomato, right? The stress goes here, tomato, right? There are rules about if a word has so many syllables, a number of syllables, where does the stress fall for every language, right? In Spanish, the rule is if the word ends in a vowel or the letter N or the letter S, then the stress goes on the second to last syllable. The second to last syllable, not the last syllable, but the one right before it. So this is casa, right? Not casa. Trenes, trenes, not trenes, right? So the word has an A at the end, a vowel. Word has an N at the end or an S at the end, right? Then the stress is not on the last syllable, but the one before. Right? In theory, that makes sense. If the word ends in a vowel or N or S, stress is on the second to last syllable. So the majority of words probably that you meet, it's really the second to last syllable. But then if it has another consonant as the ending word, as the ending letter, sorry. If a word ends in any other consonant, then the stress goes on the last syllable. So we say el hotel. We don't say el hotel, we say el hotel, right? Now, if we understand these rules and if we remember these rules, then it will help us know when we have to add an accent or take out an accent without memorizing all the words, right? So generally, the rule is put the stress on the second to last syllable if it ends in the word ends in a vowel or N or an S. Other than that, stress on the last syllable. And then if the word itself is different for some reason, if a word doesn't follow these rules, then it has a written accent. So if the word came into the language from wherever it came from, like it came from a Roman language, because that's probably where most of the vocabulary in Spanish came from. And so the pronunciation came with it and it doesn't match the rule, they put an accent when you spell it. Anybody confused? Anybody want to ask for clarification? And this should help us too when we're reading practice, right? All right. Take a screenshot if you need to, or if you want to. Okay, so that said, let's look at the other piece of the plurals rules. Plurals in Spanish depend on the last letter of the word, right? All right. Now, if the nouns end in an accented vowel plus the N or the S, we drop the accent and we add ES, right? So by accented vowel, we mean if it's like ON or en or an or as or is or whatever, if the word ends in something like this, right? An accented vowel or vowel with an accent plus the n or the s. When we add on the es, we drop the vowel, right? And the reason we do that is because now the stress falls where you want it to fall on its own. So you don't need the accent, right? What was the rule before? The rule was if a word ended in N, then the stress would go on the second to last syllable. So it would be camion instead of camion, right? But Spanish wants the word to be camion. So they put an accent here to show that the pronunciation is different. When you add the ES and now the word ends in an S, the stress automatically falls on the second to last accent. Sorry, second to last syllable, camiones. So you don't need to put an accent there. People will already say camiones. We understand the logic, even if we can't reproduce it for each example ourselves. El francés becomes los franceses, because now that you've added es, the stress automatically goes here, right? La canción becomes las canciones, right? All right, what do these words mean? The truck, the trucks, right? So some nouns in Spanish that have an accent when they are singular, when you add on the es and you make them plural, they lose the accent, right? Anyone want to ask anything or voice their frustration with Spanish and all these little rules, or any other comments or another example you want to ask about, you could do that, right? Okay, and here's the rules spelled out below. The lesson, la lección becomes lessons. All right, the written accent is dropped on adding a plural ending because the stress naturally moves back to where it's supposed to be, according to the normal rules of pronunciation, right? Okay, and then the last rule with this is that sometimes, so for feminine plural nouns that end in N and have more than one syllable, we add an accent to keep the stress in the right place, right? So add an accent in the plural in nouns, and we are doing nouns, but also for adjectives, if the word has more than one syllable. Right, any examples are ordain. So the feminine plural is ordenes, right? This is feminine, las órdenes, right? So let's think about it. We want the stress to go here, the second to last syllable in ordain because it ends in an N. When we make it plural, we want the stress to stay here. So we put an accent for feminine plural nouns that end in N, right? Okay, la examen, las exámenes. No. Take out because examine is not feminine. Examines is a masculine noun, right? So on top, I need to change the wording of my rule. from just take out feminine, right? So it's plural nouns and then more than one syllable. Because it's el examen and los exámenes, right? All right, and this is just for nouns that have more than one syllable, right? That end in N that have more than one syllable. Like train ends in N, but it has only one syllable. So that doesn't need an accent. Right? El tren, but los trenes. Here the rule is written out here. So we add the accent, but we need to make sure the stress stays where it was in the singular. Okay, now this is a small group of exceptions. So I want to give you the information, but if you could only retain or process or remember from what was on the first slide, right? Then no problem. Just have this here so that you could come back to it. Have it in your notes so you could come back to it when you need to, right? That's the whole point of Spanish class for lower forms. We're building a resource with tools that will help us absorb and learn language. Right? We don't have to grasp everything 100% immediately the first time we hear it. Okay, let's try some exercises where we make some nouns plural. Ready? Oops, wrong thing. Wrong thing, wrong thing, wrong thing. Right. So we have these rules here that we just went over, but now they're in Spanish, but that's okay, right? So if rule 1 is if it ends in a vowel, add S. Rule 2, if it ends in a consonant, add ES. Rule 3, if it ends in Z, change the Z to C, add ES. Rule 4, if it has an accent in the last syllable, normally it loses it in the plural. Not always, but normally, right? And just in case anybody would like this link, here it is, right? All right, let's take a look. We have el árbol, is the tree. El mes, the month. La nariz, the nose. El zapato, the shoe. La flor, the flower. Okay. See how many of these you could type the plurals for in 1 minute. Okay. El árbol becomes los árboles. Now, do I need to put an accent there? Do I need to put an accent there according to the rules? Okay, good. Yes, those of you who sent the answers, yes. I still have to put an accent, right? Los árboles. Because the stress has to stay here on the first syllable. It's not the second to last syllable, it's not the last syllable. If the noun ends in an S, might as well go back and look in hopes that it will make it stick, right? If the noun ended in an S, then stress should fall on the second to last syllable. But árbol is special. And if it ended in an L, like árbol ends in an L, normally the stress would fall on the last syllable. So it would be árbol. But árbol is special, right? Accent is on the first syllable. So we keep it on the first syllable and make it plural. Los árboles, right? All right. El mes becomes los. It ends in an S. We add ES. Los meses. La nariz becomes what? It looks funny, but it ends in a Z. So it becomes, we drop the Z, we change it to C. Las narices. Noses, right? El zapato, this is an R, not an N. Becomes los zapatos, right? This writing gonna go away when I close the document, when the class is done. Yeah? So write the answers if you need to. Florence in a consonant, so we add es, las flores, right? Half a minute here again, we're going to the next section. Okay, let's go to the next piece. All right, it says, elige la forma correcta, marca o subraya. So mark it or underline it, right? Choose the correct form. Los, is it niño or niños? Están en el parque. Obviously it is niños, right? We add an S. Tengo muchos, is it pez or peces? En el acuario. This is aquarium. Now, the fish that you eat is el pescado. But the fish that swim in the ocean is pez or peces, right? So it's this one, los peces, right? This is one fish, one little fish. Las ciudades son grandes, right? So this is cities. Los relojes, just now we met clock. Los relojes son caros. The clocks are expensive. All right. Now, this is a tricky one. What about number 5? Do we say anybody has ever heard luneses said? So, um, Yeah, okay. So this is an exception. This is a useful exception, right? So los lunes son aburridos, boring, right? So let's know the exception. Days of the week um are not pluralized, right? Only the article changes, right? So we would say los lunes, and note it is a common days of the week start with a common letter in Spanish, right? Los martes, los domingos, right? And this could mean Mondays, or it could mean on Mondays, right? We could also say todos los domingos, right? So every Sunday, or todos los lunes, or todos los martes, right? So the day of the week itself is not pluralized, but the article that matches it is pluralized. Cool? I want to make sure you all know this thing about days of the week, right? Because you'll hear days of the week, you'll use days of the week. You'll see it, you'll read it. So one more minute here, right? Okay, let's continue. I think we can finish this out before time runs out. We could try. En el jardín hay muchas what? So flor is the singular. Mis something son simpáticos, mine. So this is friend. My friends are nice. Las, we have luz. The light. Actually, look, this is how we say street light. Is lit, meaning it's on, encendidas. Here's our friend truck. I bought 2 new trucks because clearly I'm living in dreamland and won the lottery. Caribbean countries are beautiful, right? This país is country. All right, so tell me the plurals. All right, ready? Let's correct it one time. We're gonna make it to the end. We're gonna do this. It's going to happen. Right? In el jardín and in the garden hay muchas flores. Mis amigos son simpáticos. Las luces, because we dropped the Z, make it a C. Adiós. Dos camiones. Los países. Right? All right, take down what you need to. We're doing the last piece. It's happening. All right, guys, last little piece. I'm clearing this away. Last little piece. We want to make the sentences plural. Let's do 2, and then we'll stop there. Right? And the other 3, we will do at the start of class next week, or you could try them on your own for homework, and then we'll correct them at the start of class next week, right? All right, so if I'm making it plural, I have to make the noun plural. El estudiante becomes los estudiantes, but then I also have to make the verb plural, right? So leen un libro becomes unos libros. All right, next one. We're making la mujer plural. So we add, because it ends in an R, we add ES, right? So las mujeres. All right, but now I have to change the verb. So de compran una flor becomes unas flores, right? All right, so 3, 4, and 5, try on your own for homework. Take them down now, please. And when we start class next week, we will correct these first. And if I forget, you could also remind me. But I'm making a note, right? Now, next week's class, we're going to continue the tenses we met last week. We will practice with them, the continuous tense, the perfect tense. And we need to do weather, because we haven't done weather yet. And expressions with us there, right? Right. Okay, so if you have no questions, you have all your notes you've taken on your homework, you all are free to go. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Right, but if you have questions, now is a good time to ask them.